Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam wa tasliman kathira amma ba'd. I welcome you to our exclusive Hajj podcast with our Sheikh Abu Usamah At-Thahabi. In this podcast, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be looking at the build up to the Hajj and sharing some reflections from Hajj on the ground as of 2023, and then inshallah ta'ala sharing some advice as it relates to life after Hajj for those who performed Hajj, and giving advice with regards to preparing for Hajj for those looking to go on the upcoming pilgrimage, inshallah ta'ala. So when it comes to Hajj, it is the obligation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a pillar from the pillars of the deen, and something which is known as the annual conference of the Muslims. This is the largest conference in the world where all the Muslims from different parts of the world come and perform the pilgrimage of the house. It's an obligation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and something that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us to hasten to perform the Hajj, for none of us know what will happen to us tomorrow. And this is the reality of Hajj. It's an obligation once in a lifetime, and inshallah ta'ala we'll be talking about the different manasik of Hajj and sharing that experience with you brothers and sisters. And we have with us our Sheikh Abu Usamah At-Thahabi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, how you doing?
And you've just come back from the Hajj 1444 2023. Tell us, what were you feeling as you were going on the Hajj, and what was the experience like overall?
As the Arabs say, khayru kalam ma qalla wa dalla. The best speech is what is a little bit of speech and it gets right to the point. In keeping with that, I would say that this is probably my best Hajj, to be perfectly honest with you.
Allahu Akbar.
It's my best Hajj. I feel that way. And I hope that Allah Azza wa Jalla accepts it from us, because we never really know.
Yeah. SubhanAllah. And just to add some context to that, it's coming from someone who has performed multiple pilgrimage, multiple Hajjs over the years. So you, I think over the last 40 years, you've been performing Hajj year in and year out?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, by the ni'mah and the favor of Allah Azza wa Jal. There's some dynamics and some factors that figure into the equation why I feel that it was the best Hajj.
Yeah.
One of them is we haven't been able to go to Hajj for the past 2-3 years because of COVID.
Yeah.
And now when they opened up the door, 1.8 million Muslims made the talbiyah and said, labbaik, oh Allah, here I am. So I was one of those people. That's number one. Number two, I went with a Hajj package, Hidayah Tours of Birmingham on Coventry Road. And I don't know any Hajj package that is comparable to Hidayah. The bottom line with them is not a profit, but the bottom line with them is making sure that an easy Hajj is facilitated for the pilgrims and a safe Hajj. So going with that group, it is awesome. And also, lastly, the dynamic of the No'iyah, the type of people who went with us. The 500 brothers and sisters who went with us made it a special occasion. So I'm always having an opportunity to meet different Muslim brothers and sisters who perform Hajj with us. And once we perform Hajj, we develop everlasting, relationships.
Yeah.
I know people from Hajj many years ago. I'm still very close to them to this very day. But this 500-man-woman group was on another level.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So this Hajj in particular, because it was the first time you were going after the COVID pandemic, how in advance did you know that you're going for Hajj? A month before, a couple of weeks before? Or did you already have an idea that is going to go ahead?
Well, I'm in a position to go to Hajj every single year. So I expect to go every single year. But because of the changes that were made this year, I was told a while ago, we want you to perform Hajj with us and to go with us with our hamla, but we don't know what's going to happen with the new rules and regulations that are going to be put into place. And to be perfectly honest with you, I almost missed the Hajj because I'm from America. They said that I have to go back to America to perform Hajj from America.
Right.
So
right.
It was some kalam that didn't even make any sense. But Allah Ta'ala ultimately had it decreed that I would go.
I think it's important at this stage just to give some context, inshallah ta'ala, with regards to the new system of Hajj, so that inshallah ta'ala all of us can benefit from it. So there has been an introduction of a new platform, the Nusuk platform, for those from America, Europe and Australia. And the idea of this platform is that it's a platform that provides all end-to-end Hajj experience on there. So you would go on there, for anybody who's intending to perform Hajj, they would go onto the Nusuk website and they would enter their details. They will create an account. They will upload their passport details. They will do the biometric. They will add all their information and the information of those who are traveling with them, for example, the family members. And on the back of that, they will then have the application of the Hajj visa. They will, through that, have their flights booked. Through that, they will have their accommodation booked, and all the other arrangements for Hajj, the logistics, will be made via this particular platform. So it's a bespoke platform that has been created, and it's the first time that this has come into fruition. So this is why perhaps there were some glitches along the way in the beginning, but inshallah we hope that in the years to come the system inshallah ta'ala picks up, and inshallah the experience of the pilgrimage becomes better and better.
There were many glitches in the new system. It was problematic, very challenging. We had some logistical nightmares that were created as a result of the new system. But the nature of Hajj is a microcosm of our lives.
Exactly.
From the very beginning to the end, you're going to have a series of challenges, and they don't stop. That's how Hajj is.
Yeah.
But the big things that were problematic for our group logistically came as a result of the new system. Unfortunately, a lot of the pilgrims who went with us, they didn't understand that you're in jihad. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the Hajj is jihad for the weak, for the old, for the woman. It's jihad. It's not for tourism, and it's not for the lighthearted. It's not something to go into it thinking that it's easy. I was telling the people before we even went on the trip in a seminar, Hajj is jihad. The better in shape you are, the easier it will be, inshallah. But you have to be in mental shape, which brings me to this point about all of the logistical nightmares that happen. When something would happen, we found some of the pilgrims just kept it moving, and they thanked Allah because they knew what they were there for. And then there were other people who had to play the blame game. Some people can't help it. And this is one of the lessons you learn in Hajj. Don't complain unnecessarily. Everything is by the qadr. I arrived in Mecca after spending about a week in Medina. And when I arrived in Mecca, they gave me a very beautiful room. The people that I went with is a high-end Hajj package. And as soon as I got there, I was very impressed with my room in the Hilton Convention Center. Took my thobes out, hung them up. I had my ihram on, and I put my room together, and I got ready to take a shower. And then I got a phone call saying one of the pilgrims was there with his wife, and they didn't have a good room. That can I give them my room? It's a no-brainer. The pilgrim comes first. The customer is always right. That's our motto. So I gave him the room without, any qualms, without any hesitations. And then I went to the subsequent new room, which I was sharing with 3 other people from the staff.
Right.
And we had very small beds that under normal circumstances would have been very uncomfortable for me. But I'm not complaining because in the Hajj, and that's what Hajj is all about, just like that, like the flick of a light, just like that, things can change. So one of the constant lessons of Hajj is, as Allah mentioned in the Quran and in the authentic Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Ma sha Allah can, wa ma lam yasha lam yakun." What Allah willed is going to happen, and what Allah didn't will is not going to happen. So things will happen to the newbies I call them, my babies who are the newbies. They're new. Different things will happen, like their luggage will get lost for 2 days. Like we would expect to get a ride to Mina in the coach, or a ride away from Mina in the coach. But due to different curveballs, things that happen, and it wouldn't happen like that. And some people will just outright have meltdowns and lose their minds, and it's no one's fault. So that's one of the lessons of Hajj. And I love the pilgrim who gets his head around that, and that's how he or she gets on with the Hajj. But you always have those people who are a trial and a fitna. They're a test for the other people.
Of course, of course. And the whole idea is that any journey you take, there's going to be difficulties along that. And with the journey of Hajj, even more so the case, because you are going to be tested. Your sabr is going to be tested, your tawakkul is going to be tested, your iman is going to be tested.
That's a good point, brother. And these are the things we bring to the attention of the people from the very beginning and the inception of the trip, that the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as-safaru qit'atum min al-adhab yumna'u ahadukum min ta'amihi wa sharabihi wa nawmihi. Traveling in and of itself is a piece of punishment. It's a piece of punishment. One of you is prevented from the food he normally eats, the drink he normally drinks, the sleep that he normally sleeps. So hurry up. Once you get the trip finished and done with, hurry up and get back to your family. And the dua of safar that he used to take, in that dua he would seek refuge in Allah from the wa'ba' safar, from the hardships and perils of traveling. Yeah. That's in the dua. But if a person is a cultural Muslim, he's just a cultural Muslim, and now the time has come for him to perform Hajj. But he never looked at that dua of safar. He never considered the fiqh of it, understanding of it. It's all new to him. It's all new to him. Had he had previous knowledge, he would have known. Hajj is difficult in and of itself. And what did the religion do? Allah Azza wa Jal came and made things easy for the people, because Hajj and traveling is different. So you can combine your prayer, so you can shorten your prayer, so you don't have to fast and so forth and so on.
No, of course. And the whole idea here that, even in the build up to the Hajj, because we were helping a lot of people on board. So with my brother Mir Zaman from Sunnah Tours, I'm affiliated with him, and I was helping him in terms of the whole build-up. And we even did a Hajj seminar as well to help the pilgrims prepare for the journey of Hajj. Because a lot of the times, many people don't travel much, so don't have the experience of traveling, let alone going for Hajj. So sometimes they're going for Hajj and they're taking everything with them. So no, travel light. You don't have to take anything except your necessities, because you can get anything from there, right? And just like that, we were advising, giving the practical tips, the religious guidance along with Hajj. But this year what I noticed is that the build-up in terms of the application process, the new platform of Nusuk, all of that, a lot of people couldn't get their heads around that. And when they had, first and foremost made the accounts, they didn't understand how to use it, firstly. And secondly, sometimes in some cases their payments did not go through and they missed out on the Hajj. And what I always say is that in reality, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has invited you for this year or the upcoming year, you will go regardless of any of these difficulties along the way, right? But if it hasn't been written for you, then it wasn't going to happen regardless of whatever happened. So I think the application process, what I always advise the brothers, even the ones who are inshallah preparing to go for the upcoming Hajj, is do your part and leave the rest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Plant the seed, and if the invitation comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will be amongst those who are in the ihram, performing the tawaf around the Kaaba. You'll be amongst those who are standing in the plains of Arafat. You'll be the ones sleeping under the stars in Muzdalifah. You'll be the one amongst the many doing the Jamarat. And you'll be amongst those who are doing the Udhiyah and the Qurbani, and so on and so forth from the different manasik of Hajj.
I think it's important to give time to this and just shed light on it. But for me, I'd rather move on to talk about what happened at Hajj and things of this nature, although this is really important, what we're talking about with the Nusuk, because this is something that's a challenge that's in front of us moving forward, inshallah, and you got to get with the program.
Yeah.
For me, I almost threw in the towel and gave up on it, because I don't have the patience for this kind of stuff. I don't have the patience. I say, man, I'm not doing it. I'm not going through all of that.
Yeah.
But I have to take this time out and practicing the hadith. Whoever doesn't think the people has effectively not thanked Allah. And I have to give a shout out to brother Abu Isa Ni'matullah from Manchester, who walked me through everything and made it really easy for me. And he took care of almost everything as it relates to this part of the journey. But that's the amount of time I want to give to this. I'd rather get into the other issue about what happened at the Hajj
in terms of, I think one of my questions to you was going to be the hardest part of Hajj. It seems as though the hardest part was the process of getting there. But once you arrived into Medina and then going on to Makkah to perform the Hajj itself, share with us some of the most memorable moments, some of the highlights from this particular Hajj.
Well, the hardest part of Hajj for me was not comparable to the nusuk situation. And that's the thing that people need to do when they perform Hajj and in our lives. You have to always look at how it could be worse. So the nusuk thing was difficult, but that was a walk in the park compared to what we had to do on the day of Al-Hajj Al-Akbar, the big day of Al-Hajj. So on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, we're in Arafat, and you have to make dua, and you want to be in a place where you're secluded, and that's usually outside in that sun. So that's not easy, making that dua there. And then after that, getting from there to Muzdalifah and doing it on those trains. So the train, alhamdulillah, because we go on a high-end Hajj package, we ride the trains. But getting to the trains and standing, waiting for the train and getting on the train and standing all of that time is tough. But it's not as tough as the people who have to walk from Arafat to Muzdalifah. So that's what you always have to do. You have to always do what the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look at those who are below you and don't look at those who are above you. If you do that, you'll appreciate Allah's ni'mah that He gave to you. If you always looking at the people who have more money and better off than you won't appreciate what Allah is giving you. But then the Hajj al-Akbar, which is the 10th day, Muzdalifah, that night, the night of Arafat, Rasulullah would arrive, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in Muzdalifah, get his rocks, and he would pray Maghrib 3 rakats, Isha 2 rakats, and go right to sleep. It's the only time it was reported that he did not make the witr prayer.
Yeah.
When he used to travel, he would abandon all prayers except the 2 rakats of Fajr and the witr prayer. On this night, he didn't do the witr prayer. Why? Because the next day is Al-Hajj Al-Akbar. وَأَذَانُ مِنَ اللَّهِ إِلَى النَّاسِ يَوْمِ الْحَجِّ الْأَكْبَرِ. Allah has proclaimed to the people of the major Hajj, the biggest day of Hajj, which he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is the best day of the dunya. Better than Arafat, better than the other day. And on that day, you have to stone the one Jamara, Al-Aqaba, the big one. And then you have to slaughter, you have to comb your hair, you have to cut your hair, and you have to get down to the Kaaba and make the Tawaf Al-Ifada. And everyone's down there. And then you have to make the sa'i between As-Safa and Marwa. And everyone's down there. That was the most difficult day.
Subhanallah.
And it's always the most difficult day. And we always tell people there's no time of that day where it's easy. No. When you go to the Kaaba, if you go early at Dhuhr time or whatever, after Dhuhr time, there's going to be a lot of people there. And it's going to be very hot. If you go at Maghrib time or after Asr time, it's going to be even more people there because they're trying to get there as well because the sun is coming.
Exactly.
It's always hot. You just got to get in where you fit in. But at the same time, you got to realize, as we tell our customers, our brothers and sisters, Hajj is difficult. But if you know what you're doing and you know how to navigate in the Hajj, you'll understand. As Allah mentioned in Surah Al-Hajj about Hajj, وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ مِلَّةَ أَبِيكُمْ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Allah didn't make difficult things difficult for you in your deen. This is the middle of your father Ibrahim. This is in Surah Al-Hajj and it's talking about Hajj. But Hajj is difficult. Wallahi, it's difficult. So how do we harmonize that? If you have knowledge and you know what you're doing, you can navigate and it's easier. If you know your religion, you know you can do different things and take advantage of the concessions, as the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah loves it when you take advantage of the rukhsa, the concession, just as He hates it when you do that which is haram. So leaving Muzdalifah Women can leave when it's halfway through the night. Make it easy. That big day of Hajj when you have to throw, you have to slaughter. Some man came and said, Ya Rasulullah, I slaughtered before I threw. He said, La haraj, no problem. Another man said, Ya Rasulullah, I cut my hair before I saw. He said, no problem. Another man said, Ya, so the tartib. He allowed it to be easy with the people.
Flexible with it. Yes.
Flexible. But we, as a community, we get very, very, very tripped out, and we be bugging and tripping when we just put too much emphasis on the regiment, on the ritual. Although Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned in the Quran, لَن يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ. It's not the meat or the blood of the animal that you slaughter that goes up to Allah. It's your taqwa. So you find brothers and sisters of our ummah, when you're going around the Kaaba, you have to pray 2 rakats behind the maqam of Ibrahim after you've done 7. So what do the people do? They insist on praying in that area. So here comes an old man, 75 years old. He's not steady on his feet. He trips over you and he breaks his hips, he breaks his arm, he breaks his wrist, breaks his jaw because you are in the way. So those are some of the things about Hajj that, helps us to see. We don't want to be negative, but you see the condition and the reality of our ummah.
Of course. And the whole idea is that the more prepared you are in terms of the knowledge, in terms of physical preparation, like you mentioned, Yawm al-Hajj al-Akbar, the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, it's a historic record-breaking day for me in terms of the amount of steps I've done in my life, right? It's the more steps by, I think on the day of Hajj, I think it was more than 60,000 steps on that particular day, right? Something I couldn't even imagine. So if you're not physically prepared, you're not financially prepared, you're not mentally prepared, not spiritually prepared, you will struggle. So the whole idea that you're mentioning here is the more you have knowledge about Hajj and you go with that knowledge, the more beneficial the experience will be.
Exactly. And I think if people perform Hajj, they should try to prepare knowledge-wise as much as possible. In the seminar that we give, I tend not to get deep into what to do and how to do it because it's going to overwhelm the people.
Exactly.
It's going to overwhelm them. Just get them mentally prepared that you are going to have a tough time. Make sure you go and get your affairs together and things like that. Because the Hajj is not a joke, brother, but it's that one ibadah from the ibadat of Islam that's very unique. Like Umrah, like Ramadan. When we fast in the month of Ramadan, all of us feel like our iman goes up and we feel like we're better people because our consciousness of Allah is sharper. Hajj is like that, but it's more. Because with these 60,000 steps that you mentioned, that you take, and you never realize you can do all of that, the physicality, demands of Hajj upon your body, you really feel like you did something for this religion. So it's a sense of real fulfillment. I've done something. I'm not just, tired for nothing. I've done something. So the Hajj for me, if I can just, be a voice of inspiration to the people who listen and hurry up and make Hajj, because there is no worship like Hajj, and Shaitan doesn't want you to perform Hajj. It's like a person who's not married and they keep procrastinating marriage, someone, they should get married. They're not. Shaitan doesn't want you to get married, because once you get married, especially if you marry your soulmate, you'll say to yourself, what made me wait so long? Walillahi al-mathul a'la. Hajj is a better example, bigger than that. A person performs Hajj, I'm telling you, it will make you feel like proud to be a Muslim. So all of Hajj is difficult, brother.
In terms of your favorite moments of this particular Hajj, highlights, the most memorable moments as you recall it, and you've only come back a few days now, so what sticks with you the most? You can maybe share with us a couple of...
I would say the first Umrah that we did, because we did the Hajj of Tamattu', and that's the Hajj, that's the best Hajj in which you combine Umrah first, and then you come out of those clothes, you stay in Mecca, and then you do the Hajj. So in doing the first Umrah, we started out with about 70 people from our group. Out of the 500, 70 or so came with me. And whenever I arrive in Mecca, I'm not excited about going to make Umrah. I go to my room and I lay down and I take a shower and I take it easy because I'm an old head. I'm a vet. I know that that's false adrenaline. That's false adrenaline that has me wanting to go run out there.
Straight away and perform the
you
Umrah.
have to take it easy. But the boss has told me, you have to get out there with those pilgrims. So I went with them and I told them, you have to stay together. I'm going to go slow, but you have to stay together. So when we started to do our tawaf around the Kaaba, I was really in a zone. I mean, I was in a zone, brother. So that was really special for me because I was in such a zone that when I got to the 7th one and I was finished, I was still walking until a sister screamed and said, hey, Sheikh, that's 7. And I turned around and there was only 5 people with us. And then we went and we proceeded to do the rest of the Umrah and they stayed with us. That was my best tawaf that I can remember.
Allahu Akbar.
And my best 2, rakats behind the maqam of Ibrahim, but back by Zamzam water. I really felt close to Allah. I felt religious. I felt pious. I felt that. I felt that spirituality of Al-Islam. And with those people that I was with, they were listening and sucking it up because some of them, one sister from Ghana, her name was Majida, was a serious soldier. She was a serious soldier. And she had made Hajj before, but this was the Hajj where she was really learning. So I wanted to help them. So that was really nice. The second one is Muzdalifah. All the time I love Muzdalifah because you stay at Arafat all day, and we had nice accommodations. You go to the toilet, akramakumullah, you just go and you right in, and it was clean. Wudu, shower as much as you want. But when we left there and I got to Muzdalifah and I found our place and we laid down, I went right out. And Muzdalifah is a place where I sleep, a special sleep. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about the hadith of Munkar and Nakir, that when the person dies, they sit you up and they ask you, who's your Lord? What's your religion? What did you have to say about that man who came to you, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? If they answer, my Lord is Allah, my religion is Islam, that man is Muhammad, Abdullah, Rasulullah. Munkar and Nakir will say to them, to that person, sleep the way a newly married man sleeps. So a man who gets married for the first time, and they call it Laylatul Dakhl, the night of entering, he's going to be with his wife, consummate his marriage. And then after that, he sleeps a special sleep. That's a sleep that's been mentioned in Islam. Muzdalifah sleep is bigger than that for me. Because when I get to Muzdalifah, I'm tired, and I sleep and I'm out. And this particular trip, I went to sleep and I didn't have any mat. I was just on the ground, on the carpet that had been provided. Many of the brothers carried with them all of this stuff with them because they're newbies. You don't go there with all that stuff. They carry this, they carry that. They have their backpacks. I just went with a little bit of stuff. Got in there and I laid down, went to sleep. Wallahi, as I was sleeping under the stars, I dreamed that I was a black superhero. Wallahi. Back in America, in the ghetto, and I was flying around solving crimes, helping the people in my community, African Americans. And I was a real superhero. I was out like a light. I mean, out.
On the pebbles amongst the millions of people there.
Brother. It was the best sleep of my life, period. And I was just dreaming. I was a black superhero. And then when I woke up, the reality of Hajj hit me. And that is, the toilets were over there, and there was a gangload of people in that toilet that went stretched as far as your eyes can see. But the newbies, they're the ones who panic. Don't panic. If you know what you're doing, then those who know are not like those who don't know. And that's what Allah said in the Quran. Qul هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون? Tell them, are they the same, those who know and those who don't know? Scholars are not like those who don't know. But if you know anything about traveling, about Hajj, you're not like the one who doesn't know. So we just went, and we know what to do. And it just makes it that much more easier. But the point is, that sleep was an amazing sleep.
Alhamdulillah.
So those are two issues that I remember. We had some real serious challenges along the way. After stoning the Jamarat, the first one, we had to walk back to Mecca in that sun. And that sun, when it hits you on the head, it hits you on the head. After just 20, 30 minutes of being in that sun, your energy is sapped. You start becoming delirious. You start not knowing which way is up and which way is to the side and so forth and so on. So what I always do is, anytime we stop, I sit down. And that's the point. It's little subtle things like that the pilgrims don't know. Sit down. What are you standing up for? You're exerting energy. Get out of the sun. There was a man, his name was Kunya, was Abu Israel. The Prophet came and saw him standing up at Hajj. He said, who is that? Who is that? If he was Hazar Nazir, if he knew the ilm al-ghaib, the unseen, he wouldn't ask, who was that? He said, who is that? They say, Ya Rasulullah, that's Abu Israel. He took an oath to stand up in the sun and not sit down, to fast and not to talk to anyone. He said, tell that man to get out of the sun and to sit down, and tell him to speak, and tell him to continue his fast. 3 of those things are not from our religion. Standing in the sun to get close to Allah is not from the religion. Get out of the sun and sit down. Standing up for the sake of standing up, not for our religion. Not talking to the people to get close, that's not from our religion. What if they say, Assalamu alaikum? What if you sneeze? You have to say, Alhamdulillah. But tell them to fast. So these types of issues, a lot of times, the pilgrims, they don't know.
It's these practical advices, I think these are accumulated over the years of experience of performing the Hajj, that you can share that with others, and inshallah ta'ala benefit them as well, inshallah ta'ala. But we'll have, inshallah, we'll have an ongoing series on Hajj to share these experiences so that inshallah ta'ala all can benefit. I remember when I was going for Hajj, I was making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah grant me the secrets of Hajj. Like, you know, the things that not everybody knows, that's out in the open. And on the back of that, I felt my Hajj experience was truly enjoyable, because I remember whilst the herd of people is going this way, I would see that there's an opening on the side, and alhamdulillah would go in and it would become easy, just like you mentioned.
Let me just mention one thing, and I think it's really important for the people who have not performed Hajj to understand this. When I first performed Hajj as a student in Medina, there was an African-American brother, Bilal Abdul Alim, who somehow had his own Hajj package. He invited the students to come with him. African-Americans, we could come for free, he said. I went. His Hajj package wasn't the best. It was very, unorganized, and it left a lot to be desired. Brother, I was overwhelmed by the crowd, my first Hajj. I didn't know what I was doing. That made me very uncomfortable. I had trepidation, anxiety.
You had never experienced anything like that before?
Never experienced Hajj. I had made Umrah because we were students. I made Umrah in Ramadan. I may have made 2 or 3 Umrahs prior to that Hajj, my first year in Medina. But when we went for the Hajj, man, all of those people, I was overwhelmed. Everything was coming at me very quickly. Now, when I perform Hajj, I know what I'm doing. I know what direction I'm going. I know where Mecca and Medina is, or Mecca and Mina, and I'm not going to get lost. And even if I were to get lost, I know what to do. Take it easy. Don't go looking for this and looking for that. Take it easy. And now with the technology, we can utilize this technology that wasn't there 10 years ago, where if you get lost, you can ping your location to people. So I just say to the people who are going for the first time, if you are a religious leader, don't overwhelm the people with information. It's too much. You're going to overload their circuits. And if you're a person going to Hajj for the first time, stick closely to someone who knows what he's doing and bite on to him and hold on to him with your molars, because that could be the difference of your Hajj being something that has that mojo to it that you were looking for. You felt the mojo because you knew what you were doing, as opposed to you start to say, what is this Hajj? You know, in Arabic, traveling is called safar. Safar comes from the verb safara, which means to expose. Keshafa, safara means the same thing, to expose. So the one who was traveling, he's a musafir. The Arabs say Hajj or traveling is called safar because it exposes the reality of who you are, your real akhlaq. Are you a complainer? Are you a baby? Are you a mujahid? Are you selfish? Do you think about others? Are you a grateful person? Because you start seeing people, man, just complain. Oh, it's hot. It's hot. What you want me to do about that, homie? It's hot. All right, I got that. What you want me to do about that? Oh, the food is not this. The food is bland. And then you learn those people, you say, I can't be around these kind of people because that kind of energy it takes away from you.
Yeah. So Sheikh, in terms of, I think it's very important, as we mentioned, the highlights and the memories, if we can conclude upon the feelings and the emotions. Because I remember, like, for example, as I was, for example, when I was leading the group, the first tawaf, it was one of the most emotional tawafs. And I think you alluded to that earlier with your tawaf experience from this Hajj. And then for me personally, tawaf al-wida, the farewell tawaf, is the most emotional tawaf. Like, it's almost as if my legs are becoming weak and I cannot carry on. There's this hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts the Hajj and grants us Hajj Mabrur, inshallah ta'ala. And at the same time, there's this desire of coming back, and you don't know if you're going to come back or not. So share with us maybe some emotions and some feelings like that you are experiencing, and the inner thoughts that stick with you.
I mean, they're on different levels. My experience and emotions with Allah, my Lord, experience and emotions with the group. I became very close to the group. We became a family. The elders from amongst them, the brothers, the sisters, emotions as it relates to our Hamla, our group, our Hajj group, because we are a very close-knit family and we work together and we vibe off of each other. All of those things combined, they make for like that feeling like, yeah, man, everybody has its up and downs and we have our issues going on in our lives, but when you perform Hajj, you forget about that stuff.
It's a fulfilling experience.
Yes, you forget about that stuff. And going away, there is that sadness, but there's that feeling of triumph as well. Like this Hajj, I rolled my right ankle over at Muzdalifah that morning. And I rolled it over bad, and I didn't even realize it because I thought I caught myself, and I just kept walking. But all of the walking, standing on the train, and then walking to Jamarat and walking to Mecca, when I made it to Mecca and I made it to my room, I just took a hot shower, took that ihram off, put it down, and put another ihram on, got in the bed, I went to sleep. When I woke up to go do the tawaf al-ifada, my foot was going and my back had the violin in their tears. They was, I'm telling you, I was mashed up. Because you never want to have foot problems at Hajj. You don't want blisters. You don't want cuts.
You don't want any injuries whatsoever.
You don't want to take your toenail, the cuticle out. You don't want any feet problems, foot problems. And I was like, oh no, I'm compromised. I couldn't believe it. But it's the qadr of Allah. And the Prophet mentioned, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, innama al-jaza' ala qadr al-nusub. You will be rewarded comparable to the difficulty that you go through. Provided you didn't create that difficulty. You can't make things difficult on yourself looking for a reward.
Yeah.
But if your house is 2 blocks away from the mosque, you'll get more rewards than the one whose house is right across the street from the mosque, for an example. So those things gave me a lot of incentive to keep pushing forward. So there were a plethora, man, catalog of emotions that I just felt really good to be a Muslim. To be a Muslim, because like Allah mentioned, what those people in the Quran said, the believers. Alhamdulillah, alladhi hadana lihada, wa ma kunna linahtadiya, lola an hadana Allah. The believers say all praises are due to Allah who guided us to this. What's this? Al-Islam, Al-Iman, Al-Tawheed, the Sunnah. Allah guided us to us. And had it not been for Allah, we would have never been guided. Had it not been for Allah, I wouldn't have been there. I felt humbled by that. Allah gave me another opportunity for free. For free. And I say that from the angle, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ, concerning the ni'mah of Allah, Surah Al-Duha, talk about the ni'mah of Allah. Don't say I go for free to put people down. I say that's a ni'mah from Allah. Because if Allah wants you to go to Hajj, it's going to happen. He wants you to get married, you're going to get married. He wants you to get to graduate, it's going to happen. That's from the lessons of Hajj, brother. Have no doubt.
Indeed.
If all of the mankind, all of the jinn, first and last of them came to get to help you, it's not going to happen unless Allah decreed it for you. So that was a very humbling experience, man. And already I feel I have this yearning to go back.
Go back. Alhamdulillah. Sheikh, Jazakallah khair. And as we head towards the conclusion, one piece of advice for those who have returned from Hajj. Maybe the signs of the Hajj Mabrur, the accepted Hajj, the reward of which is nothing except Jannah. What should the person who's come back, having performed Hajj, focus on now?
Many people falsely believe that Hajj is an experience that where you go, it just blows you away, you don't do any more sins, and you become a perfect human being, and the situation is not like that. It's possible for you to have an epiphany in Hajj and come to an understanding about something, and you get crystal clarity. I don't want to have this relationship anymore. I don't want to take intoxicants anymore. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. That can happen. Malcolm X was at Mina. And at Mina, when he was performing Hajj, he went to sleep. They turned the lights off and he heard the people snoring and he had an epiphany. And he said, I realized at that moment that all the people in that tent snored in the same language. And I understood they were bleeding the same language. And I understood at that moment, there's no superiority of the black over the white over the black. We all from Adam. So you can have those kinds of revelations come to you. And that's fine and dandy. But you're not going to just turn into another human being just like that. I'm sure it happened to some people. You're going to still make mistakes. But you'll get a chance to repivot. You get a chance to get back on the square. Get back in the saddle. And have more motivation because you prove to yourself at Hajj
that you can do it.
You can do it. You can pray 5 times a day because you're around people who are praying 5 times a day. And we were in the bubble. We were in the bubble, but people were doing more. Sisters didn't have hijab on when they went to Hajj. They wore the hijab there. When they arrived back, some took it off, some left it on. So I say, as the Salaf used to say, if you want to know if you had an acceptable Hajj, it was success, or Ramadan, are you doing the same things that you were doing prior to the Hajj, prior to the Ramadan? But I still say, don't be hard on yourself. Do the best, put your best foot forward, just get over there, stop lollygagging, and just make a lot of dua to Allah that He makes it a life-changing experience, because there's nothing, no thing on the face of this earth like Hajj.
Indeed.
My iman in Allah and His Tawheed and His existence and His hikmah and His rahmah and the rahmah of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is increased in yaqeen from that Hajj. The khair of this ummah. We got a lot of problems, brother. Brother sent me this thing when Asian Muslim dropped some lyrics on the day of Arafat where he was saying some real crazy, unacceptable, un-Islamic stuff. I don't want to mention his name. Got over 1 million hits. When you look at stuff like that, it's easy to say the glass is half empty. The is no good. It's a problem. But when you go to Hajj, it doesn't let you say that. You can look at the many people and say, 1.8 million people. The Prophet spoke the truth. We're weak. We're like the foam of the ocean. You could be one of those people. I try to stay away from them. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whoever says the people are destroyed, he destroyed them. You destroy them. Because when you look with that negative eye, you won't find a need to give dawah. You won't find a need to support. You won't find a need to say,
give islah or nasiha.
Yeah, you won't. They're all messed up. So for me, Hajj increased all of that. Hajj even made me feel like, the ghulat of the sunnah who have made all of this trouble over the years, the ghulat, the extremists who claim that they're on the sunnah, but it's just the mafia. It's just a
cult. It's a cult.
Yeah, it's a bunch of bullies. Hajj makes you feel, if I can be gentle and easy and understanding with these 500 people with me and all of these 1.8 million Muslims who are out here I'm inclined to overlook, then why can't I be like that with those people? They're making a mistake in that thing that they have, that shiddah, that hizbiyah, that lack of ability to read the room. So they're making mistakes as you're making mistakes in others. That's their thing. Try to work with them. So Hajj makes you feel like that. It breaks down that kibr, that ego, because it's not about you, man. It's about getting out there and being appreciative that Allah gave you the opportunity. So I ask Allah Azza wa Jal لأن يتقبل منا what we put forth in that Hajj, especially some of those aunties and uncles and elders who are in wheelchairs and had all of these challenges facing them, but they still made it do what it had to do. And they added that do it to it fluid that we used to tell them. Yeah. You have to add the do it to it fluid. Old lady was about 80 years old. Old lady called me over. I couldn't really understand her English. She was trying to ask me, do I have any do it to it fluid? Because I kept telling the people, we got to put the do it to it fluid in it. Meaning, let's just make it do what it got to do. And I couldn't understand what she was saying. What? Her daughter was pushing the wheelchair, said she's asking you for the do it to it fluid. I told her, there's no real fluid like that, auntie. I call her Mama G. This is not that kind. I said, but I could get you some Zamzam. She just didn't understand my language. And it was beautiful being with her and the other people there from the elders who are all Asians for the most part. Bangladeshi, Pakistani. An Asian community, they have a lot of good in them. A lot of good. We came home, their relatives were there to greet them with flowers and things like that. The Asian community, you tell them, do this, do that. The Prophet, they do it. But they had that challenge as well of that Islam, of the culture that a lot of times they're upon. And this is one of the things we tell the people making Hajj. Your Maulvi Saab doesn't necessarily know what he's talking about. You'll never know how much knowledge he really has until you compare his knowledge with someone outside of that bubble. So when you learn about Hajj according to the Quran and the Sunnah.
Indeed, inshallah ta'ala. And I remember when you came back from Hajj, picking you up from the airport, almost had a hard time finding you because there were so many people there waiting for their family members to come and blocking the path. Alhamdulillah, Sheikh, this brings us towards the end of our podcast for this particular session. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll do some more in the future, cover the different aspects of Hajj, the different manasik of Hajj, go into detail and derive from it the lessons and the reflections of the scholars of the different manasik of Hajj, inshallah ta'ala. As we conclude, just a piece of advice for our brothers and sisters who are looking to perform Hajj in the upcoming year or the years to come. Just stay in touch with the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah. Keep up to date with that and the Nusuk. Get all your information from official sources and also stay in touch with the scholars of the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for authentic information as it relates to Hajj and Umrah bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And with that, we come towards the conclusion. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept the Hajj of the Hujjaj. Allahumma ameen. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive them for all their shortcomings and wrongdoings. Allahumma ameen. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to invite us all to Hajj every year. Allahumma ameen.
Ameen.
Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Your brother in Islam, Uthman Abdullah Malik.